Hello. You may or may not know that 2 years ago I graduated, and the dress that I wore to my grad night was handmade by me. That was my first time ever sewing an article of clothing, and it turned out all right, but it definitely wasn't the best. I think it was pretty obvious that it was my first time. Well, recently I graduated again, and maybe you figured it out from the title of this video, but I handmade my dress again. Before we get into the sewing, since my dress was vintage inspired, I thought maybe I should talk a little bit about the fashion history that I drew inspiration from. Everybody knows about Christian Dior, but did you know about Dior's new look? It emerged post World War II when Dior released his very first collection. The key features of this new look included rounded shoulders, a cinched waist, and a very full skirt. The silhouette of this new look was essentially an hourglass figure. The generous use of fabric, especially in the skirts, contrasted the scarcity during the war. This style was meant to look more dressy and romantic, as people wanted to move away from the grimness and rigidity of wartime. In his autobiography, Dior wrote, "We were just emerging from a poverty-stricken, parsimonious era, obsessed with ration books and clothes coupons. It was only natural that my creations should take the form of a reaction against this dearth of imagination." Contrary to its name though, the new look wasn't entirely new. It was more of nostalgic for the era of corsets and bustles of the late 1800s, which was actually phased out by a more relaxed and less restrictive period of fashion that can be seen in around the 1920s. So let's go back to October 2024.
Hi! Just so you know, if you hear any tippy-tappy sounds or chirps during this video, it's her. So today is 5th October and prom is on 2nd December, so that gives me about 2 months to work on this. So I'm in the early stages of planning the dress right now, and it's not looking very good progress-wise because so far I don't have any specific plans on like the exact design that I want to make, but I do have the thought that I want to make something 1940s to 60s inspired. I've also decided that I think I'll probably do it in red, like a dark red. Initially I was planning on doing it in black, but I think that's a bit boring, especially since I did black for my previous dress.
Very early on, I was considering doing a bodice like this, or even this, because I like the silhouette of the off-shoulder with the A-line skirt. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I probably don't have the skill level to successfully create an off-shoulder look, and I didn't really have that much time or brain power to experiment and try and figure it out, so I just decided against it. Now, I looked for styles that might be easier to execute and also had a more vintage feel. I narrowed it down to something like these or these, with these having closed backs and these being halter necks. In the end, I decided that I preferred the closed backs, so I got to work on the drafts.
I made this last night. I just used some random pattern I found online, but I'm pretty sure it's just like a standard top pattern. And it looks pretty nice. But it just doesn't have the right vibe, if you know what I mean. Like, this is very English teacher dress looking. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on what exactly is making it look a bit wrong, but I guess I'll just trial and error.
I don't know what happened to the footage, but I made another little test pattern, but with a deeper neckline and a narrower waistline, and it looked better, so I remade it with my own measurements. I have my first draft of a 2-scale pattern of the bodice. I just scaled up and traced the pattern that I found online that I used to make the small ones. I tested the pattern on the leftover fabric from my Loki project, which I haven't used since. Okay, it looks a bit weird right now because I've only sewed one armhole and the middle, so this side's completely open. Next step is to hem the neckline, the sleeves, and obviously close the side up. But before I do that, I wanted to plan a couple things. First of all, I think the neckline looks a bit weird. I think I'll try and rip a few seams so that maybe it goes down lower and it looks a bit more natural. I think I want it to be like smoother instead of angled like that. I unstitched a bit of the neckline to get it lower, then I used hemming tape to, well, hem all the edges.
without you it would seem.
I'm not sure how, but I kind of messed up a little bit. This is my first draft of the front panel and this is the back panel. And for some reason, the armholes don't line up. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to. So, I don't know how I achieved this. I felt like something was off when I was working with the mock-up. And I guess now I know why. Yeah, I guess I just have to fix that in my second draft.
For the record, I know that the armhole isn't supposed to be mirrored exactly, but if you can see, this wasn't even correct according to this graphic. You can see here both pieces have about the same curvature.
As you can see, the pattern I'm using has darts that go vertical, but I think after a while of looking at it, I realized it looks kinda off for this specific time period of clothes. Somehow vertical darts give me more modern vibes. I think what I need to do is I need to rotate this dart a little bit so that it goes this way and then it kind of gathers in this direction up to the shoulder. I think
I made the relevant changes in my second draft and tested it on the other leftover fabric from my Loki project. I was half hoping to make a wearable top out of this experiment, and the black fabric was quite thin, so I tried to sew a second layer using more random scrap fabric.
I kinda messed up because first of all, I think I rotated the darts too much, so they kind of just ended up looking really weird and did not have that vintage vibe that I was trying to go for at all. And second of all, I think I just executed it really badly. And part of the reason for that was because I was trying to use up the fabric from my Loki video, which is kind of a bit stretchy, which obviously makes it harder to sew accurately with. So as someone with very little sewing experience, I think that possibly wasn't the best choice. Yeah, so the pieces just ended up being a little bit wonky and it just turned out not great when I sewed it all together. So now I'm gonna try and draw up a new set of pattern pieces, the third draft. And first of all, I'm gonna rotate the darts less. I'm gonna figure out a better position for them to be in so that it looks more normal. And I have to fix a few proportions on the pattern pieces itself, like the sleeves. It's kind of weird. So
I don't even remember where I found this fabric, but it was not stretchy, so I just gave it a go. And of course, it was much more comfortable to work with. I guess, breaking news, tasks are easier when you don't make things difficult for yourself.
Obviously I didn't close this side again, so just ignore that, but I mean, I guess the pattern works. I made a top. It's a pretty decent top. But there's something just a little bit off about it. First of all, because I brought this in closer, right? I kind of forgot that I have to account for the fabric here, so I think I'll have to do something about it because the fabric kind of bunches up here. I don't know if you can see. And I kind of want it to be more fitting to the curve of my neck. Something about this part still feels a bit weird. I have no idea what. Maybe I'll sleep on it and I'll figure it out tomorrow. Or it'll come to me in a dream or something. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and cut this down a little bit and make it curved so that it kind of follows the curvature of my neck. I'm gonna try and sketch it. Something like that, I guess. Yeah, and then I'll do the same for the front. I decided to sew the shoulder portion of this mock-up as well, just to see how it would look. And this side hasn't been sewn and this side has been sewn. I'm not sure if you can see any visual difference on camera, but this side does feel like it fits a little bit better. It follows the curve now. And this side has a bunch of excess fabric, which is what I sewed down on this side.
Now that the bodice pattern was pretty much finalized, it was time to start work on the actual dress. At this point, I had about a month left.
Let's go get some fabric.
I went to the area in Chinatown again, which I haven't been to since my Loki project, and it looked just as great as ever. The first fabric that caught my eye was this sparkly one. I'm pretty sure it was some synthetic fiber fabric, and it was ever so slightly stretchy and was a little bit thin. You can kind of tell from how it falls around my fingers in this clip. And even though I liked how subtle the sparkle was, it just didn't feel quite right. Next, I found this glossy fabric. I almost instantly knew I wasn't gonna get it just because it felt far too modern, because it reminded me of these kinds of dresses. Finally, I found this fabric. The shopkeeper said it was a cotton tweed, and I really liked the texture. As you can see, there was not a hint of stretch in this fabric, which I kinda liked after that silly mock-up mistake. While I was there, I got some other stuff as well.
I've just bought the thread and some extra needles because right now I only have one. I tried to look for zippers, but I could only find one zipper, which thankfully was in red, because apparently the store that normally sells zippers is closed today because it's a public holiday, and I just impulsively decided to come on Deepavali, which...
Now the side quest was complete and I headed back home.
Hi, I'm back home, so let's do a haul of what I got from Chinatown today. First of all, I got 4 meters of this fabric. Hopefully this is enough. Also, like I mentioned, it's pretty heavy. You probably can't see on camera, but it's quite hefty because it's really thick, which is why I chose this fabric. Can you hear that? Yeah, it's pretty thick. Okay. Second of all, I got a zipper, which happens to be red. It was very lucky because, like I mentioned as well, this was the only zipper I could find because the store that normally sells all the zippers is closed because it's a public holiday. So, nice coincidence. And lastly, oh, they stapled it. Ooh, I got red thread and some extra needles. Hopefully this time around I don't lose my needles like the last time when I lost my needles like 3 times.
I've lost 2 needles in the span of 24 hours.
I lost my needle again. One thing I feel like I should bring up though is that I was planning on getting dark red fabric. I think I'll probably do it in red, like a dark red. But nobody sells dark red fabric. This was the darkest red I could find. I wanted a more like maroony shade, but nobody had it. It was either this or brown.
I'm not gonna lie, working with this fabric was a bit daunting. I mean, it usually is when you start working on the final fabric, but because it was so thick, it felt very serious. But I had to start somewhere, so I just got to work. This fabric had a pretty obvious grain, so I tried my best to have the pieces align.
Thank goodness I decided to buy the spare needles because the eye of my original needle, the camera's probably not going to pick it up, but it's really small, and I got thicker thread because this fabric is pretty thick, and I could not fit that new thread into the eye of this needle, but it fits into the spare ones that I got.
Again, it was a bit scary to begin sewing, but after a while it felt alright. Like, kinda alright.
I just finished sewing the first portion. My fingers hurt. My fingers really hurt from trying to pull the needle out. I don't know how I'm gonna do the rest, but I mean, I don't really have a choice. Unfortunately, my hands don't have the strength and momentum of a sewing machine needle. So, I guess my fingers are gonna be very strong after this.
As you can see, I continued to struggle with the thickness of the material, and let me tell you, I wanted to give up at multiple points, but the thought of not having a dress for prom kept me going. I guess I could have just bought a dress, but that would have defeated the whole purpose, so here's my assistant doing quality checks.
I'm a little bit stuck on sewing the armhole. At first, I was gonna just be really lazy and double fold it over and just do a blind hem, which is what I did on another top that I made for fun. But I think this armhole has too much of a curve because the top that I made for fun had less of a curve, so I think that's why I could do that. But when you try and double fold this one, it kind of scrunches up the fabric around this area. So according to Google, I think what I need to do is use a shaped facing, which is basically have another piece of fabric that follows this part of the sleeve, and then you sew it on, and then you flip it inside out so that it still has a nice finish. I have my pieces cut out. Winter is playing with my pins. Okay, I'm gonna try and do a cool transition. So I sewed the pieces together, and then I hemmed everything by hand, which is why it's kind of really messy, but I think it's good enough for me.
To press the sleeve holes, I created a makeshift tailor's hem out of some shorts, which worked well enough.
It's not bad. I'm glad I didn't make it too tight so it's not like digging into my armpit, but I cannot raise my arm more than 90 degrees, more or less, because I didn't like the silhouette of the shoulder portion just ending right before the shoulder socket, so it would curve like that. Kind of wanted it out more. And so because this material is pretty thick, yeah, it's kind of difficult to raise my arm any higher. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. I don't see why I would have to like raise the roof or whatever, but even if I had to, I think 90 degrees is good enough. Yeah, okay. This is what the armhole looks like from the inside. Hi, Winter. And what I need to do now is I need to sew the zipper onto the other side. I'm kind of scared because... Oh. Winter. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm a bit scared because I've never sewn a zipper before.
I continued working under supervision.
Okay, obviously I haven't finished sewing this side, so just ignore that. But I just finished sewing the zipper, so I wanted to see what it looks like. And there's one small issue. What I didn't realize initially was that this zipper pull has feet on this side. So if I just leave it like that, it just juts out because the feet stop it from lying flat. It does lie flat the other way though, so I think this zipper was made to work in the other direction. I don't really wanna unstitch everything and then flip it the other way around. So I think what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to file the feet down so that it can lie flat this way as well. I did find some dangerous tools. I don't think I can show them on camera because YouTube policies or whatever. So I'm gonna cover it and show you. Okay, yeah, that's I think it's a serrated blade. I think that's what it's called. I found this. I don't know what any of these are called. And I think I can show these. The plier cutter, like pliers, but they cut instead of bending stuff. Let's begin the trials. I think I should start off with these, the plier things. I think they're called wire cutters because they're smaller, so you kind of have more control. And I want to see if that works before I move on to the gigantic saws. Okay, well, it works. I don't know where that piece went. Maybe I should have taken better precautions against that. Okay, I guess I'm doing it again. I'm gonna close my eyes in case it flies at me. Don't know where that went also, but... Oh. You can kind of see these silver bits were the parts I cut off. I guess that concludes our trials. This is what the zipper pull looks like now after I filed it down and then I colored it in with permanent marker. I think it actually looks not bad. The color is pretty good. And it lies flat now. Even if it were ugly, I don't think anyone would be looking at the zipper anyway, so I think this has been a great success.
With the zipper now attached to the bodice, I continued sewing the side that I hadn't finished yet. And remember how I said my fingers would be really strong because of this project?
I seem to have bent the needle. I'm not very sure how I did that, but you can see it's bent. I broke it. Alright, so the bodice is basically done.
Come on, you walk and go.
We're on the floor right now because we are going to measure and cut out the pieces for the skirt, and the fabric is too big to go on my table. So I'm going to be doing a skirt that is 73 centimeters long, which is about this long. And it will sit just below my knee. How do I? Yeah, like that. So that's the plan. First, I guess let's lay the fabric out. I'm now realizing how much fabric I got. This isn't even the whole thing, it's folded in half. Since obviously I don't have any more space to unfold the fabric some more, I guess we'll just work with this. So I'm gonna be using the guides by Mood Fabrics, so thanks guys! So we are going to do a full circle skirt. I'm gonna trace out the other half, cut both pieces out, and I will see you in a bit. Okay, so this is more or less what the skirt's gonna look like when it's done. Obviously it's gonna be a lot more even, but yeah, very twirly.
And so the sewing continued.
I honestly don't know if this is a really calm and zen activity or if it's pure painstaking effort. I think it's both, because look, I've been at this for quite a while now and there's still more to go.
I was really nervous about aligning the zipper, so I took my time with trying to make sure the needle was passing through the right parts of the zipper and the fabric.
I've broken a second needle. Okay, so I just got a new needle out and immediately on the first stitch, the eye snapped.
After that tiny distraction, I finished the zipper and I hemmed the skirt side seams.
I started sewing the bodice to the skirt and I really don't know why I didn't realize this sooner, but I just realized that the bodice is slightly wider at the waist than the skirt is by about 3 centimeters. I've sewed to about the middle and there's a little bit of excess of the bodice. So yeah, I'll have a think and see if I can figure out how to make it align.
After a bit of thinking, I decided to just unstitch what I had and shift the skirt waistline to account for the excess, and then I tried again.
It's a bit hard to hold it in place and show you, but right now the bodice is still very little bit too long. And I think it's because I kind of messed up here. You can see it starts off curved and then it kind of goes a little bit straight because the chalk is like rubbing off. I think I will unstitch it and redo it again because it's bugging me.
And so I did, and I made sure the chalk marks were more visible this time.
Success! Hi guys, the dress is not done yet. There's a lot of hemming and stuff to do. But I finally finished attaching the skirt to the bodice. So I think I'm going to try it on right now just to see what it looks like. It's the middle of the night, so I'm trying not to make too much noise, but this actually looks pretty good. I'm so happy right now. I'm so proud of myself. Oh my gosh. It kind of looks better than I expected, I'm not even gonna lie.
The next day, I hemmed the waistline. All I had left to do was to add the waistband and hem the skirt.
It is currently the morning of 28 November and I have barely started hemming the skirt. I have started, but very little progress has been made. I don't know if I'll have time to add the waistband. I don't think so. I was kind of hoping it would give it a more vintage look because a lot of dresses from the 50s have like a belt or a waistband. Maybe I'll have to do without it. It doesn't look that bad right now. It was just like an extra detail, so no big deal.
So this was the final leg of this project.
Even though I made the conscious effort to do a full circle skirt, I'm now realizing that there's a lot more fabric to hem than I was expecting.
After a few hours, I finished half of the skirt.
Hi guys, I'm gonna go get my nails done now. Normally I don't do a very good job of taking care of my nails or my hands. I'm not sure if you can tell from this video. And normally I keep my nails very short But for this, I've been growing out my nails for the past week. But they still look really musty. Hopefully my nails turn out okay later. Today is gonna be a solo date going out to get my nails done. So I'm wearing my lactose tolerant shirt so everyone knows that I can drink milk.
This was what my nails looked like at the start. This was after shaping and whatever she did to my horrible cuticles. And this is the final look. I went for a half moon design because it's a popular vintage nail look, but I didn't want to do extensions, so the shape isn't exactly an almond shape like it's supposed to be, but that's okay.
Okay guys, it is 2 days to prom and I have about a third of the skirt left to hem. I will finish that today because I want to put this dress in the wash before I wear it for prom so that the fabric can kind of settle down a bit. So yeah, it's time to get down to business.
I felt like I took too many time lapses of me sewing, so I didn't record this part, but I finished hemming the other half of the skirt and I put it to wash.
Hi guys, I have to leave now, so let's do a quick fit check, even though you've literally seen my fit already. The hair kind of failed. I mean, my hair is kind of curly, I guess, but I seem to have inherited the gene of my hair not being able to hold curls from my parents, so I don't know if these curls will stay for the entire night, so we'll see, I guess. Okay, bye! Hi everyone! I just got home and my feet really hurt from the heels and I'm kind of tired, but that aside, I had a pretty good time at prom today. The food was good. I took so many photos with people and everyone looked really good. My hair kinda survived, at least this part did. Kinda. I mean, it's still curled, but it's definitely flatter than it was at the start. There's a little bit of curl left in the rest of my head. I'm pretty sure the back is completely straight by now, even though I sprayed it thoroughly with hair wax. But it's fine. It looks fine. The dress also survived, thankfully. So that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me make this dress. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!
Every gentleman and lady